Alright, let me start by saying this isn't some campfire ghost story I made up. This happened to me, and it's something I've replayed in my mind 1,000 times, trying to make sense of it. It was about 5 years ago, late autumn, the kind of day where the air is crisp. The leaves are a perfect mix of orange and red, and you just feel the need to get outside. I'm an avid hiker, and there is this trail system about an hour from my home that I know like the back of my hand. Or so I thought. I decided to try a traveled loop, one that peels off from the main path and goes deeper into the old-growth section of the forest. It's marked on the maps, but most people stick to the more manicured trails. I was looking for solitude, and that's exactly what I got. I packed my day bag water, snacks, a headlamp, first aid kit, the usual. I let my roommate know my route and my estimated return time. Just like Eerie. Super said too, safety first, right? The first couple of hours were perfect. The forest floor was a thick carpet of leaves, and the only sounds were the crunching under my boots and the occasional call of a bird. The sunlight filtered through the thinning canopy, creating these beautiful, shifting patterns on the ground. I felt completely at peace, totally in my element. The trail was a bit overgrown in places, but still easy enough to follow. I was making good time. Around 2 p.m., I reached a fork in the trail that wasn't on my map. This was the first little red flag. One path looked like it continued the loop I was on, but the other was fainter, almost swallowed by ferns and underbrush. I pulled out my phone to check my GPS app, but of course, there was no signal. Deep woods, go figure. I trusted my instincts and the slightly more worn path, figuring it was the correct route. I took a quick water break at the granola bar and pushed on. About 20 minutes later, the atmosphere started to change. It's hard to describe, but the woods just felt different. The cheerful bird songs had stopped. It was completely silent. Not a peaceful silence, but a heavy, watchful silence. The kind that makes the hair on your arms stand up. I stopped for a moment and listened. Nothing. Not even the rustle of a squirrel. It was like the entire forest was holding its breath. I shook my head, telling myself I was just being paranoid because I was alone on an unfamiliar trail. I kept walking, but the feeling of being watched was getting stronger. Every snap of a twig made me jump. I'd glance over my shoulder, expecting to see a deer or maybe another hiker, but there was never anything there. Just endless trees. The sun was getting lower, and the shadows were growing long and distorted. That's when I saw it. Up ahead, just off the trail, was a small, dilapidated wooden structure. It looked like an old hunting blind or maybe a trapper's cabin, but it was in a weird spot, not near any clearings or game trails. Curiosity got the better of me. I told myself it might have a landmark or a sign that could help me get my bearings. I stepped off the path and pushed my way through some branches to get a closer look. The cabin was tiny, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, made of rough-hewn logs chinked with what looked like dried mud and moss. The roof was partially caved in, and there was no door, just a dark, gaping opening. It looked like it had been abandoned for decades. As I got closer, a smell hit me, a coppery, metallic smell, like old blood, mixed with the damp, earthy scent of decay. It was nauseating. My gut was screaming at me to turn around, to get back on the trail and just leave, but I was frozen for a second, staring at that dark doorway, and that's when I heard it. A sound from inside the cabin. It was a soft, wet, tearing sound, like fabric being slowly ripped, but somehow more organic. It was followed by a low, guttural clicking. It wasn't any animal I'd ever heard. It wasn't a bear, or a coyote, or a boar. The sound was rhythmic, methodical. Tear. Click. Click. Click, click, click. My blood ran cold. Every survival instinct in my body was now at full volume, screaming. Danger. I started backing away, slowly, trying not to make a sound. My heart was a drum against my ribs. I couldn't take my eyes off that dark opening. I kept thinking, whatever is in there, it knows I'm here. It heard me approach. The tearing sound stopped. The silence that followed was 1,000 times worse. I held my breath, waiting. Then, From the darkness of the doorway, a hand emerged. It wasn't a normal hand. It was long, pale, and the fingers were stretched out, thin like a spider's legs. The skin was almost translucent, and the knuckles were large and knobby. It slowly gripped the doorframe, the fingers curling around the rotting wood. It didn't move any further. It just stayed there, holding the frame, as if to say, "I see you." I didn't wait for the rest of it to come out. I turned and I ran. I didn't care about the trail. I didn't care about the branches whipping at my face. I just ran. I sprinted through the underbrush, adrenaline coursing through me. I could hear crashing behind me, not like an animal running on four legs, but something else. It sounded clumsy, yet fast. The snapping of branches was getting closer. I didn't dare look back. I just focused on the ground in front of me, leaping over fallen logs, praying I wouldn't trip. I have no idea how long I ran for. It felt like an eternity. My lungs were burning. My legs felt like lead, but I didn't stop. Fear is a powerful fuel. Finally, I burst through a thicket of bushes and stumbled right onto the main, well-worn trail I had left hours ago. I almost collapsed with relief. I looked back the way I came, into the dense, dark woods. The crashing sounds had stopped. There was nothing there. Just silence again. I didn't stop to catch my breath. I scrambled back onto the main path and practically ran the entire way back to the trailhead. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat. Every gust of wind sounded like something moving behind me. When I finally saw my car in the parking lot as dusk was settling, I almost cried. I fumbled with my keys, competed inside, and locked the doors. I sat there for a minute, shaking, just trying to process what had happened. I drove home in a daze. I tried to rationalize it. Was it a trick of the light? A hallucination brought on by fatigue and dehydration? But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. That tearing sound. That pale, spider-like hand. It's burned into my memory. I never told my roommate the full story, just that I got lost and spooked. How do you even begin to explain something like that? I haven't been back to that forest since. I still hike, but I stick to popular trails, places where there are always other people around. Sometimes, when I'm out in the woods, I'll get that same feeling of being watched, and the memory comes rushing back. I don't know what was in that cabin. A person, an animal, something else entirely. All I know is that the woods keep secrets, and some of them are better left undisturbed. There are things out there that our modern world has forgotten, things that exist in the deep, quiet places, and I'm perfectly happy to let them stay there. Thank you for listening to my story. It's the first time I've told it in this much detail, and honestly, it helps to get it out. Be safe out there, and always trust your gut. If a place feels wrong, it probably is. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more stories. Stay safe, and see you next time.